Okay, first off, I'll apologize for all the traffic, because apparently they opened the floodgates yet again. When you live in the country, the COVID-19 really doesn't make a whole big difference, I guess. But secondly, I'm supposed to be showing y'all how to sort your lead before you get into it. But apparently I have absolutely no trash whatsoever in any of my boxes or any of my buckets, which is a good thing for me, but I guess it's a bad thing for y'all because you're not going to see what trash weights look like. So we'll just kind of run through this and see what we can get into. Now this is a box. This weighed out at 98 pounds. So that'll make a few. Things we're going to need here. Yes, I always wear my gloves when I'm handling lead. Don't have to. If you don't, wash your hands afterwards. Don't stick your fingers in your mouth. Don't pick your nose. You know, the general safety stuff. Other thing you're going to need, which I don't have a good pair, but I just dug these out to quickly show y'all this. Good pair of nippers. Side cutters, whatever, any kind of nippers, wire cutters, works good. I prefer the longer handles. And also when you go through this many weights, you will tend to wear a blister on your hand. I've actually sat in one day going through so many weights, I have actually literally peeled the skin off. So a good comfortable pair. Longer handles makes a big difference. Now, I guess to just try to describe, since I don't have any trash weights or zinc weights, again, this is sorting the lead out from the zinc. Your iron weights, one, they're pretty much always marked FE for iron. Also, doesn't matter if you get those mixed in because they're not going to melt, they're simply going to float on top. Another thing you'll notice on the iron weights is instead of the clip being molded into the weight, it will be riveted on. So that's a good clear sign. A lot of people will actually take a magnet, go through their weights with a magnet just to pick out all the iron. Like I said, I don't really worry about iron too much because it's not going to melt anyway. It'll float to the top. Now your zinc weights are generally going to be marked, again, crappy camera, but on the weight they will say ZN for zinc. A little bit, and I say a very little bit, of zinc in your lead mix really isn't going to hurt anything. You know, 2 or 3 zinc weights and 10 pounds, you're probably going to be okay. What happens when you get zinc in your weights, or zinc in any kind of lead mixture, a lot of people call it oat milling. I call it cream of wheat because it looks more like cream of wheat. It'll get a sandy look to it. Zinc melts at about your lead's going to melt, I believe, if I remember, about 622 degrees. Your zinc's going to melt a little over 700. So if you have a handy dandy lead thermometer and you keep your melt temp below 700 degrees, you don't have to sort it. Me, when I do my smelting, as y'all know, which I'm about to do another video, I tend to smelt my lead hot because I like to get my lead up to about 800 degrees before I flux it. That's just a me thing. But generally we'll sort all our weights before we get started. And again, on the way the zinc weights look, now I've been doing this long enough, I can generally pick up a weight, tell if it's lead or zinc without actually having to nip it. But for the newbies, check each and every one of your weights. What happens when you get the zinc in the lead? You can turn your temp up, melt the zinc, and still pour it into molds. But because zinc is so much harder when you go to cut the sprue plates, you can actually break a set of aluminum molds. I always keep a blowtorch handy when I'm molding, and I have actually had to take a blowtorch and melt the zinc lead mixture that was in it and pour it out, because you cannot snap the sprues. Zinc is that much harder. As far as weight goes, now if you've got a set of cast iron or steel molds, if you want to mold pure zinc bullets, you can. You have to remember, zinc weighs about 60% of what lead does. So then you're going to have to adjust your powder charge and your bullet weight accordingly. Zinc is pretty much self-lubricating. If you do run pure zinc bullets, you actually don't even have to lubricate the bullet. But unless you're a really advanced loader, don't recommend that. So, pull out a couple here. You can generally tell the old style lead weights. They'll have, maybe one bevel. The old, where we go? Yeah, here's a good example of the old school weights. Is they're generally just kind of a teardrop shape. So what you want to do, and I had to plug the phone up, so I'm trying to get around cords here, but simply take your nippers and squeeze. You don't have to try to cut all the way through it. Also, when we go to smelting, don't worry about the clips. That was one of my crappy jobs as a kid. I had to sit there and take a pair of pliers, and we would, back and forth and break off the lead so we didn't have the clips in the pot. Clips are steel, they're not going to melt. I generally throw everything in the pot, then skim everything off the top. Whatever floats to the top, you skim it off with the draws. So, also I would normally just take in, as I'm sitting there sorting these, I would throw them in my smelting pot, but it's full of lead for the next video. So I'm just going to chunk them in an old cardboard box I found out here. But again, this is where you want you a pair of nippers with a comfortable handle. Most of these non-slip handles, the rubberized handles like this, they're great for non-slip, but when you're going to sit here and do this over and over, that's where it tends to wear and rub the hide off. But again, you can see, you can nip into it. Doesn't take a lot of pressure, but if you can cut into it, that's a lead weight. Again, your zinc weights, where'd I go here, are going to look more something like this. They've generally got more facets, more squared off. Now this is a lead weight, as you can see. But again, they will generally say ZN. If it says ZN on it, toss it in the scrap bucket. If it's iron, FE, if you come across it, toss it in the scrap bucket. However, a lot of the older zinc weights will not say ZN on them. And unless you test each and every one, that's where you're going to end up with zinc in your mix. I'm trying to go through the box here and see if I can find the zinc, but apparently I got a heck of a deal on these. Only paid 20 cents a pound for this. Again, big weight. This is actually off a truck tire, but again, it will nip in lead weight. I already know that's lead weight, but nip in lead weight. Again, you will tell when you run into zinc, because when you go to squeeze down on it, you will get no nipping whatsoever in. Oh, trash box, trash box. I actually had to go find some stick-ons. Had to go through 3 other boxes just to find some crap stick-ons. Yeah, when we're talking about the lead mixture, I run just straight wheel weights, thermocycle, which we'll get into when we do the molding. But the alloy on these, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think these are about 92 6 and 2. So it's not pure lead, it's a good antimony. And when you thermocycle the wheel weights, most people want to add antimony, they want to add Babbitt to it to harden it up. This is where we get into the tensile strength versus hardness. I have ran straight wheel weight mixtures at 3,000 feet per second, non-gas checked, and got virtually no lead fouling in the bore, even at 3,000 feet per second. Now your stick-on weights, they come in a variety of assortments. I only went and got this one set because I didn't want to dig through the others. Generally your stick-on weights are sectioned. They'll be like a bunch of little squares and you simply break off what you want, but stick-on weights have a 2-sided sticky tape, just a foam tape that they use to stick them on. Most of your stick-on weights are closer to pure lead. It's a really, as you can see here, really soft lead. I generally save these. Well, there goes the sticky. I generally save these for, well, here we can see, after I peel these apart, you can see the segments in it. Again, sorry, crappy camera. But they're generally segmented with weight ounces. But what happens is when you try to smelt these in your pot, you get up to temperature, this latex sticky tape, it turns to a gummy glue. It floats to the top, but it makes a god-awful mess in your pot. I have a little 10-pound pot because I don't run a whole lot of pure lead. Again, muzzleloader bullets, hunting slugs. If I'm going to mold up slugs, I'll use the softer. That way they splatter a little bit. But that makes a terrible mess in your pot. So I have a little 10-pound pot, which I guess I'll grab it real quick. Trying not to make the video too awful long, but since it's handy, this little pot here, believe it or not, that's a 10-pound pot. This is what I use to melt the stick-on weights with. Yeah, when you get into using those, you'll see when I talk about the sticky, gummy, nasty, and it burns and it stinks. So make sure you're wearing a respirator anytime you try to smelt one. Make sure you're wearing a respirator anytime you smelt any of it. But especially the stick-on weights, because you get a lot of toxic fumes off of that. But again, there's an example of the, and you can see just how soft this stuff is. Good muzzleloader bullets. Good for hunting slugs. Basically pure lead. Again, anything up to 1,000 feet per second, you can run pure lead up to 1,000 feet per second, and you don't have to worry about bore fouling, about lead in the bores. You start getting over 1,000 feet per second, no matter what lube you use, you're going to start getting lead coating. So again, sorry, the first time in my life I don't have trash here, but as you can see, and again, if it won't nip in, you know it's a zinc. Chunk it in the scrap pile. lead. Like I said, I can tell. But for those that you can't tell, you know, don't try to sit and chunk them by hand like I do. Again, maybe you'll be like me and look up and get 3 boxes of non-trash stuff. Sorry, have a spider in my glasses. So I guess there's not much more I can say about it, other than take you a pair of nippers, check each and every one. If it'll nip, it's going to be lead. If it won't nip, it's not going to be lead. Don't put it in the mix. I guess we'll end that one here.